Well, controversy aside, at least this is a good movie. Let's talk about that. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Movie Emporium's movie review of I Swear, the new film from director Kirk Jones. Okay, this based on true story about John Davidson. This movie, which stars Robert Aramayo, is a movie about a guy who has Tourette syndrome, and it's a neurological disorder which makes you have tics. It makes you, of course, spout out things that you may not believe in, like cursing or negative stereotypes. And it is basically a kind of look into how he, as an individual, kind of helped find the positives with people who have Tourette's. And an individual who really kind of took it upon himself to just be a spokesperson for the neurological disorder. But it's also a movie about how his family struggled, or at least in this movie attempted how his family struggled, how his mom, who's played by Shirley Henderson, basically struggled with trying to take care of him. And it introduces a character named Dottie Ehrenbach, who is played by Maxine Peake, who is a friend of basically that he becomes friends with, that becomes a second mother, and is basically the mother of a good friend of his. But it's like, A Beautiful Mind, where it kind of shows and kind of attempts to be a feel-good story, a movie that tries to be earnest and honest about the difficulties of that thing is Tourette's, and how people view it, and how family members view it, and how in the 80s and the 90s and even today, how people just don't understand what the situation is. But that's pretty much what I Swear is, a biographical film about John Davidson and his attempts to live in a world where it is very difficult with his condition. So there you go. There is a lot with this movie. It is a movie that got a lot of nominations and won Best Actor at the BAFTAs. It's also a movie where the main person, the actual individual, John Davidson, found himself in some controversy because he was at the BAFTAs and he says something really as a negative stereotype towards black people, and it kind of blew up. And it's unfortunate because, a lot of people think that he did it on purpose, but as we know, Tourette syndrome is not really purposeful. It's something that is unfortunately a neurological disorder. Going into this movie and having it be the mystery movie of the week for, the movie theaters in America, I understand why they want to get ahead of this. They want people to watch this movie and they want people to see it for what it is, which is a movie about an individual struggling with this disorder. And so therefore, it has 100% of Rotten Tomatoes for a reason. And to be fairly honest, as my honest review will point out, I think this movie is very stereotypical when it comes to its biographical nature. Something like A Beautiful Mind. It's a movie that doesn't really attempt to be anything more than it is, which is tell the story of John Davidson. And I think it's actually a well done, entertaining, really funny, really heartfelt movie about an individual who really tries to do his best in a world that doesn't understand who he is and what he's trying to do. And you bring in those people that have his support structure, like Maxine Peake's character. And then, of course, you have Peter Mullan, who plays Tommy Trotter. And it becomes a movie about hope and about reliance on people in dark times. Watching Shirley Henderson, who plays Heather Davidson, struggle with just trying to keep him from, self-destructing, and then watching Dottie kind of take over the motherly role and how she angles towards with his character. It's a really well done movie. And then you have Robert Aramayo, who does a really fantastic job, probably one of the best performances you'll see at least this year in America. It came out last year, so we know how it did at the BAFTAs. And it's just a really wonderful portrayal. Like I said, I'm sure they had a lot of input from John Davidson, who of course was filmed a lot in documentaries about his condition. I think the movie is very standard, once again, when it comes to what it's trying to do as a movie, but I think it's a really well done movie. I think it's a really well shot movie. I think Kirk Jones takes the material seriously. I think he knows how to have levity, how to have humor, but also be very serious when he needs to be, watching people just kind of react to him. There's scenes like he'll go to a bar and then he'll say something that really upsets one of the local bar people, and like he gets himself in trouble and the police don't know what to do about it. It really does a good job and competent job for 2 hours of setting itself apart in that nature. So therefore, I do recommend this movie. I think it's a really well done movie that has some unfortunate consequences when it comes to like its real world scenario, not on John Davidson himself when it comes to his condition, but just what happened at the BAFTAs. And I think that's a shame because this movie, apart from its own, if it didn't have that situation that happened, I think it would have been a true front runner for one of the best movies of 2026 for the United States or wherever else it's playing, because it's just a really wonderful film. It's a really, thought-provoking. It does a lot of great things. It has a lot of great characters. It does, like I said, the humor very well. It's shot very well. The music's great. I love the look of the 80s and 90s in this movie. And I think it's one of those movies that I think I will put in at least my honorable mention, or maybe my top 10, depending on how the year works out for a movie like this, because, it's like watching Sing Street. It feels like it gets down into the layers of what it's like to live in the world where things aren't as grand and grandeur. It's like very much in the kind of, middle class situation or the lower class situation of the British society. And therefore, I think it's really well done. And I think it's a really great movie. Once again, I think if you can't get past the idea of like, doing The Beautiful Mind or something like that, where it really is like, I would say, very tropey in its material of what it's trying to do. It hits the kind of the notes and the beats of what these movies do. I think you may not like it, but most of the people that I saw it with really enjoyed it. Were really taken aback. Because it was a mystery movie, nobody knew what it was. But I think overall people really came out with it with a good feel to it. And everybody seemed to like it. So that's kind of my take on the movie. Once again, very funny when it needs to be, very dramatic when it needs to be. It also has great performances, once again, by Robert Aramayo and, of course, Maxine Peake. And even Shirley Henderson, who's not in a huge amount, really does a nice job. So that's I Swear, which will be in theaters, I think, in late April or something like that. But it was nice to see that they at least are attempting to go past what happened at the BAFTAs. And hopefully it's a movie that clicks with a lot of people and a lot of people enjoy it. So that's my take on I Swear. I do appreciate watching. So in the comments below, have you seen I Swear? If you live over in Britain, have you seen it? What do you think overall? I'm sure a lot of you guys know about John Davidson and all that good stuff. But with that said, thank you so much. If you like what you see on this channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button. As always, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out, guys.